Some reason, how did I think you were going to volunteer? Thank you for starting us off.
Um, I want to volunteer today because when I was listening to Sheeta, something like really powerful struck my heart. And because I think of my mother, and because my family is on the other side of the Pacific Ocean, and I still want to help them or help myself to. I don't feel that spirit. They are so far away from being spiritual. They're still drawn to material world because our from we started from the bottom of the society. So like getting material wealth is almost like gaining respect from society. So they are still on that level that I couldn't don't know how to communicate this more to a material life. And I feel that deep pain at how can I contribute to their life. And when they are sick, I'm not there. And when I go home, I feel overwhelmed and not to be able to feel incapable of helping them. And I want to contribute to this world. And also, so when I was listening to Sheeta, just something really powerful that that's such a beautiful way to honor his mother and all mothers. And I will just stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Zhao, for sharing so deep from your heart. That opens my heart, and I'm looking around the circle, and I can see that you've connected pretty much with all of us. So thank you. Okay, who is ready to follow that? Libby, thank you. I'm going to unmute you here. There.
I feel sensitive to speaking on top of such deep emotions. I think one of the memories that Chantel brought back to me was our time at the Parliament of World Religions, when each day a meal was shared with everybody there, several thousand people. And I remember the feeling of going into the room and taking off my shoes and covering my head and sitting cross-legged on the floor with the many, many other people all in a row, sitting between people I didn't know and feeling like we were one, we were neighbors, and all sharing our meal together was a very, very moving and emotional experience for me. And it was hard to put into words why. I think it was just that sense of sharing our oneness, and there was nobody better than or less than. We were all equal. We were all connected on and sharing a beautiful meal provided by the planet and by a group of spiritual people who gave so freely and generously from their hearts. So that image came back to me, and I've thought about it many times. And Lena and I talk about, we have an abundance that we grow in our own garden, and how can we find people and give it away? And so the whole image comes to me very strongly, and I thank you for reminding me of that deep possibility.
Thank you, Libby. Len, I'm going to unmute you.
So yes, those were the Sikhs feeding us at the Parliament of the World's Religions, and it was beautiful to sit on the floor at the same level as Libby said. This has been very strengthening and moving to be reminded of the value of the home. We had wonderful mentors, and we also have used our home that way. But to call it an ashram, I'd be very proud and pleased to do that from now on. Because we often look in our culture for places outside of the home to rent, to bring people together. And it's very money intensive, and usually it's not very spiritual or beautiful setting, as Rumi would have us meet out beyond the field of right doing and wrong doing. So the home is such a wonderful, safe place to meet, where we really can be transparent to each other and relate safely and intimately. So thank you so much, Sheetal, for reminding us of that. And Zhao, please come back to us, because we want to be real people with each other, and we want you to see us and us to see you. And we all deepen in your experience, dear. Thank you.
Thank you, Len. Diane, let me unmute you.
I want to thank everybody for the depth of sharing so far, and see if I can pull some of the feelings and thoughts swirling around in me that I felt in what is Zhao, what you said, that pain of the split of between the material and spiritual. And it seemed to me, Sheetal, that your practice, your urban ashram practice and your life practice has been really about the interpenetration of those things, of how we live our lives and our bodily needs and our neighbors' bodily needs and strangers' bodily needs and mental needs and spiritual needs, and how those all come together. And I appreciate, Len, what you said about the home, and it feels like part of my calling in the world, which has not been easy for me, because I would prefer to stay at home many times in the comfort of my home and to create my home as a sacred space. And I've been called to sort of put my peckle on my back and try to bring that quality to many different kinds of spaces. Right now I have a group that's meeting in a fairly ugly room in a church in Berkeley, a wonderful church with wonderful people, but the room itself hasn't felt so sacred. And but once we opened into that space with its kind of mundane ugliness and neglect, we began to feel the sacred energy of the people and the young people who have their daily classes in that space. And I bring lamps and we bring our altar, and this is happening in many spaces. So the last thing I wanted to draw was when Sheetal, you talked about learning to accept and transform. It seems to me that there's such a strong relationship between that question and your question of, can we each feed one person or love one person? And I feel so much that in looking and deeply looking into my own shadow, that's what helps me to undo the blockages to the connections. And in my practice, part of how I work with that is to ask for help from beyond myself, with the transforming and the transmuting of those seeds of evil that live in me and in each person. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Anyone ready to speak next? Anne, I'm unmuting you.
Thank you. I find in these circles that if we were just even in silence for an hour and a half, that would be so it would be so beautiful. It's many times hard even to find words to express what's in our hearts. But when many thoughts have come, but one that is resonating with me right now is I'm so conscious of this journey being so brief, that we come into this, the privilege of being in the human body. It is a brief journey, and while we're here, I try to always say, in my day-to-day life, keep that knowing that connection, even if I may not feel it moment to moment. We are never disconnected. And in the sense of home, I feel like more and more that even our home is, we're residing in Mill Valley. We're blessed with a beautiful home and a garden, but I feel like I'm just, we're just tending that land at this time. And so we never lock our doors. Our doors are always open. And it's interesting because my husband used to get upset with me and say, "You're crazy. We've had so many burglaries in the neighborhood and this and that. What, we must lock our doors." And I said, I don't feel that way. I feel like if you want to lock your doors, you almost invite that kind of fear. And if someone really wants something, so let them take it. We have nothing really. I mean, is there anything that precious? And so so it's beautiful to see not only to see just even the family relax around that. And I guess I would just share that in terms of the seeds of darkness that live within us all too, I'm trying to understand, or not understand, but I'm trying to just sit with this perception of we don't see the big picture ever. And so we're limited in what we, I'm sorry, I'll stop at that. But anyway, thank you. This is a beautiful conversation. Grateful to be here this morning.
Thank you so much, Anne, for being with us. Anybody like to go next? Amol? Oh, Peter, okay. And then Amol? You're on, Peter.
All right, so I have something to share that I think everybody here probably is already aware of, but I share it anyways. But in the notion of sharing, the first thought that comes to mind is the obvious notion of sharing our material provisions with those that have less. And that's very appropriate and beneficial. I also consider how it works in the other direction. And I consider the poverty that exists amongst material wealth and excess. And to kind of illustrate that, I share an experience that I have. When I'm younger in law school, I go to South Africa to study abroad. And people here tell me, "Hey, why do you want to go there? It's poor, it's dangerous, you have to be careful." And I say, "I'm going. I want to go there." So I go there, and it's a beautiful experience. When I'm there, some friends and I decide to go on a road trip throughout Southern Africa. And again, we get, "Why do you want to do that? That's dangerous, it's poor, da-da-da-da." And we say, "We want to go." So we go on this road trip through Southern Africa. And when we get to Botswana, we get to the border crossing. And so part of the fears that people talk about is that how places like the United States and industrialized society have many cars and there's all this material wealth. And places like Botswana and Namibia have very few cars and very material impoverishment. And so when we get to the Botswana border, we are informed of the culture and the custom and the protocol for traveling on the road, which is if you see somebody on the road going in the same direction, we have the obligation to stop and pick that person up and take that person to the next village or wherever that person is going on our way. That's just the way it's done. And so I get back to the United States and I think to myself, wow, in Botswana, there may be an experience of material impoverishment where there is only one car for so many hundred people, but there's a wealth of sharing. And then in the United States, there's one family may have 4 and 5 cars and beyond what can be contained in a garage. But there's a very dearth of sharing because it's illegal to hitchhike. We don't trust each other. We're so concerned about each other and everything else. So amidst all this material wealth, there's the impossible. So just one thing to share. Consideration is what we each have to share, spiritual, material, and otherwise, and appreciating that within each other and offering that ourselves.
Thank you, Peter.